Okay, guys. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the tools we use for reconstructing items, like I don't know, like faded memories, maybe. And there'll be a time when your parents or grandparents pull out a box of old photos and they want you to look through it and see it, and then they'll sit there and complain and say, "Gosh, I wish I would have kept this photo better," and there's wrinkles and tears in it, and there's spots and dust spots all over it, and little tiny white rips, or part of the photo is missing, and you'll sit there and go, "Dang, Grandma, I'm super sorry to hear that you really love this photo, and there's nothing I can do." And she'll say, "Well, didn't you like take photography or graphic design or something and in school, and they didn't teach you guys how to do this?" And you'll remember that you did learn how to do this. You'll feel super guilty for not helping your grandma, and you'll remember this, and you'll help your grandma out. She'll love you. You'll become her favorite grandchild. Your name will be the number one beneficiary in her will, and and you'll email me or DM me later and be like, "Thanks, Draper. Thank you." So that happened to me. So I'm going to open a photo real quick and show you guys some ways to rebuild or reconstruct a photo and the techniques we can use. And this is a photo of, who is this? Hilda Cadet in the 1940s. And Hilda, was my grandfather's, who's now deceased, was my grandfather's first girlfriend, or the girlfriend he, that one love of your life. It was not my grandma. Surprisingly. So, my grandma and he got divorced, so we all knew that was not the love of his life. But he met Hilda. Grandpa dropped out of high school when he was like grade school or something, when he was like 15, and he met Hilda, and Hilda was a teacher, and they went out and stuff and dated, and he never asked her to marry him because he always felt bad about just being a high school, or school dropout. He worked in the lumber industry his entire life, and actually became quite successful and did pretty well for himself with zero education. Not that I want you guys to have zero education, but just so you know, it's possible. So here's Hilda. My mom gave this to me. She found it and wanted it restored, and I figured I could use it as a sample for you guys on like how to restore a photo. So some of the tools we're going to use, excuse me, some of the tools we're going to use, you guys, are right here in this section. There's the patch tool. There is the healing tool, the patch tool. And you guys might find yours other spots, but this is what they look like. These are the icons. So look around and find them, okay? But there's the healing brush, the patch tool, and we're going to use the clone stamp right here. We might use ContentAware a little bit. I'll show you guys that. So the clone stamp, the patch tool, the healing brush, and we're going to use the brush tool with the eyedropper tool. And I'll show you guys a technique that's really nice for that. So I'll go over these a little bit so you guys can see their uses and stuff, and we'll get to going here, right? So this is Hilda. I'm hitting Command plus right now, right, to blow my image up, and I'm maneuvering up to a scratch on her hair. And there's a lot of scratches on her hair, and as I hold space bar down right now and use my left click to move around, you'll see there's some damaged parts above her eye. There are little white specks in her hair, all of which will need to be fixed. There's a crack or a crease across her cheek here. Little one by her nose. Black spots on her face. Some more texture tears like right in here, which is nice. We have a white background. There's like a hair that was on, I don't know, the negative maybe. And then there's some brutal tearing down in here we're going to fix. There's her collarbone, it looks like we're going to need to, her collar here. We're going to need to replace, and we'll fix that too, okay? So I'm going to get started with this. So the patch tool, you guys, I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. Here's Hilda. The patch tool is right here, and the patch tool basically will replicate texture, right? So what you're doing with the patch tool is trying to find a piece of texture you like and you're going to take that texture of the face or the hair or the lips or whatever, or cloth, and you're going to replace it with another piece of texture that you like, okay? So one thing about restoring photos or fixing skin, you guys, and we'll do a skin editing tutorial also, but there's one thing about fixing skin and fixing texture that you have to be careful with, especially with faces. And what happens is nose skin, and I'm sure most of you gals who are into skin or makeup and skin care know this, eyelid skin is different than nose skin, which is different than forehead skin, which is different than chin skin and cheek skin, right? And lip skin. All those skins, they're all different and have different textures and consistencies. So you don't want to go, oh, I like this skin right here on her forehead, and I'm going to take some forehead skin and replace it down here on her cheek. Ideally, you want to pull skin that's really close in the proximity of the thing you're using. Same thing with hair, texture of whatever. You don't want to take hair texture here and replace it with black or somewhere in here. You want to find a place that's real close and do it up there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to replace this little line here with some texture next to it. Okay, or actually let's come down here and get this one. So here's this line right here, and what I need is the texture next to it. Now, so if I hold left click down and use my mouse to make a circle, or my pin to make a circle, it'll select this, right? Just like using selection tools, like your lasso tool, you hold left click down and just select this, right? This little piece. Once it's selected, you see this little move arrow key next to the patch tool. If you look close, there's my little move key and move arrow, and to the right of it there's a little other arrow, and the arrow is saying go find some skin to use, right, or some texture. So I'm going to hold this down and go right over here, and you'll see that little line that used to be there is now covered by this skin right here. Look, it's now that skin, it's this skin, it's all over the place. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for some texture or density that matches sort of the spot that I took it off, and it's like right there. So I just removed this line, okay? So I'm going to come down here. I can see a faint line here. I'm going to grab this and select it. I'm going to hold left click down and move it over a little bit and find a little spot, and that looks pretty good. I'm going to do the same thing right here because I think the little line extends all the way down here, and that looks pretty good. And I'm going to hold spacebar down and drag with my left click up here and hold down like this and select it. And then grab that, and I'm going to grab this and move it to the left or right, just gently, and pull some texture right in there. So basically, you guys, what I'm doing is I'm using the patch tool to find texture that's still good on this photo, and I'm replacing crappy texture with this really good texture. And you'll see I clean all that up. This looks a little bit troublesome to me right in here, and I think it might need some better texture, which is like right here. And so you see I'm trying to remove all these little black spots and hints of darkness and stuff and things, and try to make it look more like that. Okay, so anytime I encounter a spot I need to fix, I can grab it and then go to the left or right and find something better. Okay, so you see how I've smoothed out her chin. Now if I shrink it back down, you can sort of see her chin starting to look a little better. You want to work, you guys, in a way where you can make the magnification less and more constantly back and forth, so you can sort of see what it's doing. Sometimes if you're working real close like this, like I am, you'll go back and you'll pull out and you'll see, oh crap, that actually doesn't look as good as I thought, and you'll need to redo it. Okay, so I'm here redoing all this stuff. So there we go. There's the patch tool, and that's how you take texture and replace other texture with it. I might come up in the hair up here, and there's a line up here. Now along lines like this, the patch tool gets a little trickier, okay? And so I'm gonna grab this right here. Now I want this to be this, I don't know if I can do it there. Yeah, I can. I want this to be sort of the same, so I'm gonna come up here and match the shadow and the line of the hair, so it relieved the entire, it like matched, right, the entire thing. So the shadows and highlights match, right? I would do it the same thing with this. Pull it down here, I'm gonna drag it down to this. That way the shadows and highlights match. All right, there, boom. See how the little thing works now? And then I'll come in here real tight and take these little guys out. Same thing with this line. Like I don't like any of these tears up here. That looks better. The one thing, the problem with patch tool is if you have a really noisy or grainy shot like this, or really noisy, you have a lot of noise in your, a lot of grain or noise in your shot, the patch tool sometimes when it's grabbing noisy stuff, has a hard time like distributing the noise evenly, okay? And so I don't use it all the time. Oh, that was a disaster. If you want to back out of something, you guys, and you don't like what you just did, how you saw me just do that, just hit Command Z and it'll undo it. And if you keep hitting Command Z, it'll keep doing it. It'll keep going back and back and back. All this in here is problematic. Every single scratch in here I want to take out, right? And I want to remove this and remove this. I want this to be like free of scratches and tears, and I want to clean it up so it has none, right? So that would be a nightmare to have to do all that, which I will end up doing for my mom. But you'll go through here and like take all this stuff out. Anything that like sort of stands out, you want to remove. This texture in here looks pretty nice, but if you see a line that breaks the texture up, that's sort of what you want to get rid of, okay? Texture itself, I mean, you can leave it, but this stuff right in here, this is a disaster, right? I mean, this stuff right here, you're gonna take out like that and remove it. So once you've mastered the patch tool and you think that's going pretty good, there's some other things to do like within the hair that might be a little easier than the patch tool. And this is like what they used to do in the darkroom, where they would paint black or they'd paint on the negative itself and just paint the density of whatever was around it on it. And oh my God. Okay, I forgot to do something. I hope you are not doing your homework and following along as you do it. I hope you watch this and then do it, because I forgot to, this I would normally hit Command J and make a duplicate layer, and then I'd left click on that and click editing layer. And this is what I should be editing on, is this one. Flip. Because I just got excited, you guys, and I wanted to start this and show you, and I forgot to do that. I would never ever usually edit on a background layer like that, because if I screw up or something happens, I can't use a blend mode on it. I can't drop the opacity of it. I can't do flipping anything with that background layer once I've done my editing on it. There's probably a workaround. There is a workaround for that, but I think it's just best practice to start on a different layer than what you're working on, right? So you can go like this and start to see like what you've done. And if for those of you who just tripped out when I did that, like, hey, wait a second, how did you see what you've done and what you haven't? Yeah, you just click the little eyeball here and it shows it makes it invisible so that the editing layer, you can't see it anymore and you see your original background layer. So there's the editing layer on again, and it's got to be on and visible for you to actually work on it. Anyway, what I was going to tell you guys was about the hair or dark objects, or objects that are sort of the same density. You can fix those really easy by doing a small technique, right? And it's this. If I want to fix these, instead of going through and selecting like this, like every flipping single painstaking one, like that, which that totally sucks. You can like this. Grab your eyedropper tool, okay? And anytime you guys need any information about tools and want to know or understand more tools, including ones I haven't gone over, hover over this a little bit and let it like hang on it and just drift over it, and you'll see it actually sort of shows you a small demo just by putting the tool, like dragging the tool over it. Okay, and it even tells you the shortcut key for the eyedropper tool. It's I for eyedropper. So I'm going to click on the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to sample just this layer. So current layer, just this one. I don't want to work on the background. So I sample the current layer. I click this, and it samples it and it puts the color here into my foreground color, the color I want to be using, right? So I sample this, and I go, okay, that's my color. That's the color of this whole area of print. And then I go and grab my brush. Well, my brush stays the same color. So guess what? If it's on 100%, it's going to be the same color that you just sampled next to this blob. So look, What? This, my friends, is way faster, right? Painting this stuff, if it's all the same density, is way faster than using that, what do you call it? What is that called? The patch tool. Crap. It's much faster than using the patch tool. Okay? So I would probably go through and do some stuff like this, and it's almost pure black anyway, and it's blending in. I would probably change my dropper tool and pick different densities of black as I worked around the image, right? So, because I don't think the whole hair is completely black. I think there are different variations of blacks. Like up in here, I think it might get gray, I'm not sure. But if it did, I don't want to be painting black and see black lines over stuff, right? You can do the same thing in areas like this, right? See this little white blob? I'd probably use a texture because there's actually texture here on the cheek. But let's see what happens. There's gray. See how my foreground color turned to gray? Because I sampled right there next to it. And if I paint over it, see it left a little white paint blob. See that? Well, actually you can't. This right here, look. See that? It leaves a flipping gray blob. So I don't think that's actually the best way when there's texture. When there's black and you can't see it, I think it'll work really well. So now look, you'll see her hair starting to clean up. Looking pretty good. See that whole section over there I fixed. So let's go to her mouth. We'll do the same thing on her lips. We'll sample, left click, paintbrush. This is the bracket left and bracket right, which is next to the P key on your keyboard, and under the delete key, it makes it go really fast to change your brush size. So I'm going to size the brush to just barely over what I want to do, and then work on it, right? So I'm working on this, dropping all the stuff off her lips. It looks like this black is sort of the same, meaning it's the flipping same density of black everywhere. And so I'm going to go through and like probably get lazy and sloppy and paint her lips in black like this, because I feel like it's sort of all the same black. Okay. So that looks better, right? Up here, I'm not sure. Let's see if there's texture. I'd probably use it on her hair, but I might want, yeah. I'd use black. I'd use the dropper tool in here, right, for these black spots, for all these little white spots, and I clean that up real nice, right? Like that. And if you're going to see it, what I'm doing, what it looks like, right? Just uncheck this, and you'll see all this stuff and all this stuff on her hair and lips is now gone, including that little mark down there that I did. Okay. Let's see. This is a disaster. I'd probably use the patch tool for this. So grab the patch tool, make sure it's perfectly aligned over here, and then let it go. Same thing on this. It's quite the big blob I just grabbed, so let's go for a smaller blob. And there you go. And then over here, drag it, my friend. Go, dude. There. This looks better. And then I clean this up, you guys, right? I clean this nast up in here because her eyebrows are not spotted with white splotches. And then I'd probably use paint a little bit and paint some of the stuff back in. I'd probably paint this, probably paint that. I don't think that's a catch light right here. I think this is a freaking paper fail because the catch light here doesn't have that. And you can see it's starting to look better. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it's already starting to look, what is that right there? This looks, I want to say that's her eye, but it's not. It's not her eye. That is a paper tear. So we're gonna go like this. Maybe it wasn't, oh my God. Maybe it's not. Let's see. No, that's a circle. That's her eye. It just looks, I don't know, it sort of looks funny. Because I'm working on an old piece of paper. That's what happens when you work on an old piece of paper and your mom asks you to, as she's going through her box, asks you to do a photo restoration. Super fun. So, I mean, if you're inside right now and it's raining, like in Chico right now it is, this is sort of a fun thing to do. It's sort of therapeutic to do during a day when you're bored, because literally you're just doing the same stuff sort of over and over. And actually when you're done, it's sort of like gardening or weeding. It's monotonous, but when you're done, you see like this huge difference of when you started, right? You're like, oh my God, this is like, dude, vastly different than when I began. And that sucked. I'm gonna have to fix that again. So again, pull back a little bit, check it out, see where the problems are, and you'll see things are starting to shape up, right? Things are starting to clean up a little bit. Now, when you're trying to reconstruct something that's missing or gone, I don't see a whole lot in this. Yeah, I do. No, I don't. But this texture in here is going to be a disaster. So let's fool around in there, right? Let's come in here and we got to replace some of this stuff. Now, when you're working with like lines like this, sometimes the patch tool gets confused and has a hard time. Watch. So I'll grab this and I'll be like, oh, this is easy. I'll just chill, go down here. But look, now the lines don't match up, right? And a discerning person can tell that that was not how it's supposed to be. So one of the things you can do, you guys, is, well, you can use the clone stamp. And the clone stamp, if you click on it right here, this is what it looks like. Hover over it and it says clone stamp. Watch. Clone stamp. It's the S is the shortcut key. And it basically recreates exactly what you're getting. Okay, so the patch tool primarily concerns itself with texture. The clone stamp is going to clone every single thing exactly as it looks. So you have to be super careful to not lay down like tracks which look exactly the same, because organic things don't really look exactly the same. So to use the clone stamp, the Alt or Option button on your keyboard, use that to select what texture you want. Okay, so let's see if I'm looking at this and I'm going, hey, I think texture down here looks pretty good to replace this. Or I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this texture looks pretty good to replace this. I'll hold my cursor over it like that, and I'll just grab the Alt or Option key, and it'll turn into this little target symbol. I'll hit left click, and then after that, if I hold left click down, I let go of left click, right? And if I hold left click down, you'll see this little plus sign appear. The plus sign tells me where I'm pulling from, where the texture's coming from. And the circle is where the texture is going. So plus sign is where it's pulling from it, where it's extracting the texture or the image, like the pixels. It's putting the pixels inside that circle, right? Inside this little circle. So if I come up here and I want this fixed, I hold Option down, I left click, I let go of Option, and then I use left click to fix this, right? Okay, so now I'm going to come up here and fix this nast. This is a tragic wreck. So I hold Option down, turns into a little target and says, what do you want me to select? You say I want this piece, left click. I let go, and now I use left click to rebuild this. Option, click, left click, let go, and now I use left click. Ooh, okay, see what happened? See where my plus is? My plus is on a dark spot. So I just drug it over too far and used this dark area and cloned this. I don't want that, right? So you got to be careful when you're cloning, because you can clone outside the area you want and it could look like gross, right? It could look pretty bad. So this area looks pretty good to clone some paper, and you can see when you start getting fast, you can just simply find an area, clone, find an area, clone, right? And I'm Alt Option clicking all the time, and I'm a couple of spots here, and I'm just grabbing and clicking over, and other spots I'm painting around, And you can see immediately how, holy cow, this is going to be awesome because I can really clean this up. See this? Clean it up, dude. Super good. And lose this crease. And lose that crease. Right? Huh. This is going to get a little hairy in here, so we're going to like get all crazy and recreate that. What you really want to pay attention to, you guys, are highlights and shadows. Don't paint over a shadow with a highlight, right? That right there is a tragic mess that I just turned that into. So I'm going to bring some black from up here and make it a little better. So again, you can start to see that I'm fixing stuff, right? I'm taking stuff off, removing all this nasty like little wrinkles and things. I'm using the clone stamp. So the clone stamp, the patch tool, sampling the color of something with the eyedropper and then painting over it really helps out and works well. And then the last one we'll use, or you might want to use, is the healing brush tool. Okay, healing brush tool pulls stuff from the area that you're trying to fix or heal. The patch tool is you pulling it from somewhere. The clone stamp is you choosing where to pull it. The healing brush tries to approximate it itself and fix it itself. So the healing brush is right here on your keyboard. It's shortcut J, right? I think J is also a patch. I think I separated my tools. Yeah, it's also that. These guys will be under the same bracket a lot of times. I've separated mine. So if we come up here, let's find something we want to heal. Is there anything on our skin that's healable? Oh, there's some neck stuff. Okay. Oh, wait, that's a tragic. Here we go. Tragic mess again. Okay. So here's I'm on my healing brush, right, tool. I'm using just this current layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Option down. I'm going to select this area. I'm going to left click like the clone stamp. And then it's going to try to average and just smooth out the stuff as I work. And you think it looks and feels a little bit like the clone stamp, but it's not. I think it works a little bit different way. It's a little more smoothing, a little more forgiving. And for that reason, sometimes on images that are really, really pixelated like this one with all the spots, you'll see how sharp the image stuff is here and you see how smooth the healing stamp makes it. That's not very good because on skin it might be better, right? But on stuff like this where there's texture, it tends to smooth the texture out a little bit. So be really careful, you guys, when you're using the healing brush because it can get, see, I don't like that. Jeez. It can get away from you a little bit, okay? I feel like it's a little more of a sloppy tool. And that's just me. Like, you guys might like go, oh my God, healing brush is the bee's knees, or it is sick or dope, or fly. If you want to go back to like the 90s, it would be fly. Right? Super fly. So I'm killing it with a healing brush right now though, I feel like. So much to I just completely dissed it and said, no, the healing brush is sort of sloppy and stuff, and now I just can't stop using it because it's making my grandpa's lover look amazing. Yeah, look at that. Dude, it's just, I'm killing it with this now. I think it's big. Anytime you say stuff like that, right? You don't ever say that because then once you use it, it completely lies and like backstabs you, which is what this freaking healing brush just did. It just stabbed me in the back. Sometimes these tools are traitorous. Okay, see? Oh no, I'm right. Thank goodness. Well, I'm not right, but I mean, my misgivings about this are correct. Look, see how smudgy this looks? Remember I said blow out a little, zoom back out a little bit occasionally? Now when you look at it, it looks like these are, God, I hate to say it, the first thing that comes to mind are hickeys, right? So, which sort of weirds me out because my grandpa those would be my grandpa's hickeys, if I'm thinking about this right. So I don't like the job it did. It made these look really smudgy. So I'm going to take the flip and patch tool and go back and see if I can't average this a little better and drag some texture There we go. That makes it not look so flippin' smudgerama in there. Because the smudging doesn't look authentic, okay? Oh, man. There we go. That feels better. Yeah, that's feeling a little better. This is still a little bit weird right here, this blob. So I'm going to grab that and then go up the neck. That feels better. And again, these look like a little bit of blobs. Don't like them. Okay. That's feeling a little better. Okay. So zoom back out. Check it, right? Now look, that's what's happening. Up here, we did some damage. Completely reconstruct stuff. Down here, we're working on stuff, right? We got to work in here. We got to work in there. I mean, basically, you want this to look like it has no stuff on it at all. Like this, I have no idea what that is, right? That we want to remove. Got to take this out. This is disgusting. How do you know what that is? Okay, things like that. Hair stuff. You want this to look immaculate. Okay, so that is your job, right? Is to reconstruct this photo and do the best you can. Right? Try to make it look as authentic as possible, and don't overkill and smudge it and make it look smudgy. When you're done with this, right, and you're done with this image, just simply flatten it and flatten all your layers, which is Command-Shift-E, and you'll turn this back and flatten it all in your background when you're done, and then you can just save it as a JPEG, right? Save it as a JPEG by hitting Command-Shift-S, or you go up here to File, Save As, and you just choose JPEG and go ahead and save it. Okay? So that is how, those are some tips and tricks to reconstruct some things. Oh, the last thing let me undo this. The last thing I was going to show you guys is, let me see if this will do it, is ContentAware. ContentAware Fill is sort of a relatively new thing to Photoshop, and it'll automatically try to fill the selection you choose with something adjacent to make it it'll fill the area with something else, okay, with what it thinks should be there based on the surrounding pixels, right? So I'm looking right now for something that I can do. I don't think that'll work. Let's try this. Okay, so this crease right here, this big nasty creasy thing on her right lapel, we're trying to fix that. So what you do is you select it with like one of your selection tools. The lasso tool right here is probably the easiest, and you just hold left click down and follow this around and select this and make a sort of a selection on it, right? And then you're going to go to File. You're going to go to Edit, and you're going to go to ContentAware Fill, which is down here, and you're going to click on it, and it's going to show you what it's sort of thought of and what it's trying to do and how it's trying to make this work. And you'll see here, this is the area it's selected. You'll see here, this is how it's going to look when it's done. And I need to look a little closer and see what it's doing. And it looks like it did pretty good, right? It just pulled this blah dot in here. So what we're going to do is, okay, you see what I just did? So this green color, right? This green color here, which is everything else right there, indicates the sampling area, okay? Where I'm sampling from. Now it looks like when I highlighted this and I see this is what it's gonna look like, right? When it's done, it looks like that these two blobs, well, they came from here, right? So it sampled and went over here and brought area in, and it took this blob and then put it twice on the new area. Well, I don't want those blobs in my new area. I'm trying to remove this and make this look clean. So what I do is I just go, look, see this little minus in the circle? I just go, dude, don't use this. There. Don't use that area. And now when I say don't use that area, it made it clean. And it cleaned the whole thing up. Okay? So it normally would try to output to a new layer for this. I'm going to put it and keep it on the current layer. And I'm going to click OK. And you'll see the selected area that I just pulled has nothing in it now. And it used to have that big crease. So Photoshop's artificial intelligence, the little AI things they've got in here, are starting to do a really bang up job with things like this, right? So let's use the same technique and try to replace this and see if it works being this close to the edge. So let's grab this right here with my lasso tool and sample it. Okay, we're going to go to Edit, ContentAware Fill. It's going to come up and it's going to show me, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the crease. This is what it used to look like. Let's check and see the area. Okay, it's down here, and it looks like it's pulling. I'm not sure where it's pulling from, but it's got a little bit of a crease there. It's got a little crease there. It's got a hair. I didn't select the hair. This doesn't look bad. I mean, it doesn't look that bad. I'm not going to use it, but that doesn't look that bad. It did a pretty flippin' good job. So I think some of your creases, you guys, or some of your stuff, you can wipe out in large ways with this ContentAware, right? Like this blob here. Boom. This should be an easy. Actually, it's right by that crease. Well, we'll try it anyways. Edit. ContentAware Fill. Oh my God, it's gone. Whatever. Goodbye. See that stuff? Let's try it with this now. It's making me super happy. Edit. ContentAware Fill. What? Oh wait, let me see. It looks okay, but it looks sort of smudgy right here. Man, which I don't really like. So I don't know where it's pulling this from. It looks okay, you guys. I'm not sold on it yet. But yeah, you see what you can do though. You can use this ContentAware for stuff. Make sure you don't get too much going with it. But like splotches like this, I think would be good. Edit, ContentAware Fill. But look at how crappy that looks. See that blob? Super blobby. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't think that looks better. Yeah, I'd have to use something else. Let me see here. Let me see. See, it's jacked up the texture a little bit, which I don't like. So I'd probably use the patch tool down there for that too. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's that, you guys. In this thing, you can use the lasso tool and add more to it. Your hand tool will move you around, right? And your magnification tool will magnify it. But I just use the hand tool by pressing the space bar and moving around. But that's the last tool, you guys, you might want to use is the ContentAware Fill. And I would use that occasionally for some big items and some big scratches or scratches that work out for you. Other than that, I'd stick to the clone stamp, the healing brush, the patch tool, and sampling the color, or the density of the black or the white or the gray in this shot, and just painting over the area. Okay, and it'll look great. It may not work so good on the face where there's lots of pixels and noise or grain from film grain, but over areas that are black, it's really tough to tell, and it's really easy to fix. So again, go ahead and flatten your layer, Command-Shift-E, and you can save this, Command-Shift-S, and you can save it as a JPEG, and you'll be finished with your grandpa's true love, right? Your mom will have a shot of it. She'll be happy. You'll be happy. You'll preserve memories. It'll increase your standing in the will, and yeah, it'll be super therapeutic for you to play around with this and fiddle around with reconstructing stuff. And you can apply it to a ton of other things like skin fixing and a bunch of other stuff like that we'll go into later. But for right now, I just want you guys to know those tools, right? Clone stamp, healing brush, patch tool, ContentAware Fill, and then finally sampling the color and just painting it in, painting the pixels in. Okay. Okie doke. That is a wrap.